Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it's Mr. Potvin. Today we are going over topic 3.5, the nervous system. This is a pretty important system. However, we will go through it fairly quickly because you guys will be coming and seeing it again in grade 12 in a lot of detail. So we're going to cover the nuts and bolts, the basics that we need to know. I'm wearing my hat, my baseball hat, which is it's a brain here. So I've got my brain on and we're ready to go. So the nervous system, there's a picture on the side showing the nervous system. Nervous system is what detects and organizes response to different stimuli. So think back to when I slammed the door. Those of you that were in my class, I slammed the door, made you guys all jump up. That was your nervous system in action. Okay, it's some of these examples are changes in pressure, temperature, light, sound, chemicals, etc., etc. Again, like I said, that big jump when they made you guys jump out of your seats. Here is an example of nervous tissue. Okay, the nervous system is mostly made up of this type of tissue. Okay, so we talked about the 4 different types of tissues. We talked about how blood vessels are primarily 3 types of tissues. The nervous tissue not being the one. Nervous tissue is the main tissue that's in the nervous system. Nervous tissue is made entirely of specialized cells called neurons. Know this word, hint, hint, hint. Neurons are the specialized cells that make up nervous tissue. Your brain and spinal cord and nerves are all made of neurons. Okay, and a neuron's job is simply to send and receive messages. Impulses are sent from the body to the brain. Okay, the brain then organizes these responses and sends the responses back to as a message to the stimulated tissue. So think about when I slammed the door. You guys are all sitting there copying down notes, all nice and hardworking. And then I went and I slammed the door. Instantly, all of the impulses in your body sent a message to the brain. Your brain said something's up and happening. Jump out, yell, scream, do whatever you need to do. That's how that worked. Okay, so neurons are the nerve cells. So the neurons are the nerve cells, and they conduct electrical impulses or these messages. So the messages are electrical impulses. I really like the structure of the neuron. I think it's really cool. This little animation, or not animation, little picture on the side is actually a really good representation of a neuron. Okay, so the neuron is broken up into different components. The little pieces on the end here, those are called dendrites, and they're small branches that receive the messages. So when I slammed the door, it was the dendrites that received the message of the slamming door. Then we have the cell body. The cell body is what contains all the necessary organelles and whatnot, including the nucleus. And you can see that the nucleus right there. And then finally, we have the axon. And the axons are the tail-like structures at the end, and they pass the messages on to the next neuron. So the dendrites receive the message, and the axons pass it on. And here's a picture. I took this right out of our textbook. It's a little blurry because of the pixelation, but it shows 2 neurons or the path of the message. So right here we have the dendrites on the end, we have the nucleus. Dendrites receive the message and send that message up along the neuron to the up along the axon to the next neuron. The dendrites receive the message and it goes on. The nervous system is organized into different sections or systems. First, we have the central nervous system. And the central nervous system is made up of the brain and the spinal cord. Okay, so this receives the stimuli from the sensory organs, and we've got many sensory organs. We'll talk about a little later, but think of your 5 senses, right? They send also the response to the message. So they receive the stimuli from the sensory organs, but they also receive the response back from the brain. So your brain is generally divided into 3 sections. Nice little brain here. I've lost my brain. I've got a brain on my hat. I've got a half brain from my mannequin. Okay, so there's the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the medulla. And there we go. There's a beautiful picture showing where all the different functions and actions that allow us to be us, things that help us move. You have to know every single thing on this. on this diagram and exactly where it occurs. And that's just a joke. You don't. So please don't worry about this picture. But it just shows how the brain is divided up with all of our different functions. Next, we have our peripheral nervous system. And the peripheral nervous system is the division of the neuron systems composed of the cranial and spinal nerves. Okay, so the nerve cells travel to all the different bodies. This is where the nerves from our fingers go and connect with our central nervous system. So these detect stimuli. So we've already talked about sensory organs. Sensory neurons are the ones that actually send the information to the body, to the central nerve, to the central nervous system. So you touch something, something's hot or got a rough texture. That message is going to be sent via the sensory neurons to the central nervous system. Then we have the motor neurons, and these send info from the central nervous system to the muscles and organs. So the motor neurons actually send information from the central nervous system, from the brain and spinal cord, to the muscles and the organs and cause us to react to our things. The peripheral nervous system is broken into somatic nerves, and somatic nerves are nerves that are under control. So I'm thirsty, I'm just picking up the water, drinking some water. Okay, I can control all of this. So I can control whether or not I move my motor output. I'm thinking I want to move my hand to go grab my water. My somatic nerves help me do that. Autonomic nerves are not under conscious control. Okay, so things like this is your heart rate, pupil dilation, digestion. Right? We don't have to think when I eat some food. I just had a nice steak for supper. I don't have to think. Okay, I need to start digesting the steak now. Okay, it's going down my esophagus. I need to get it down the esophagus. I need my stomach to start moving and churning and the chemical digestion. That all just happens. Same thing with your heart rate. Slam that door. You guys all jumped. Your heart rate started pumping a little bit. You didn't have to think, oh my goodness, I need to get that blood pumping a lot closer, a lot quicker. Interneurons. The spinal cord connects the brain and the peripheral nervous system, and it acts as a highway for the messages between the brain and the body. Okay, it contains a type of neuron called the interneurons. Interneurons are the ones that do this. So the definition for interneurons, package, okay, are neurons in the central nervous system that connect sensory to motor neurons. These interneurons are found in the spinal cord and connect one neuron to another. Reflexes. We've talked about reflexes before. I showed you that funny picture on my PowerPoint of the guy getting his reflex checked at the doctor's. In some situations, sensory and motor neurons work together without involving our brain. So the neurons actually occur, or the two neurons work together before the message is even sent to our brain. This is known as a reflex. And your reflexes took into effect when I slammed that door and that big jump happened. It happened really, really quickly. That was a reflex. So a reflex, we've talked about this earlier in the year, it's an automatic response by the nervous system to an external stimulus. Okay, so touching a hot stove. If you go and you touch a hot stove or a hot plate or whatnot, you don't have to keep your hands on that hot stove, wait for the message to get to your brain, wait for the brain to go and say, ouch, that hurts, and send the message back to your hand saying, you better move it. Okay, you touch that hot stove, you reflex and move almost instantly. Okay, that's an example of a reflex. So the stimulus is heat, the reflex is moving your hand. Going back all the way to topic 1.1, stimulus and response, this is exactly what we were talking about then. Nerve impulses go from sensory nerves in your hand to the interneurons in the spinal cord. The message is relayed to motor neurons. That's my wife walking beside us, and which it allows our arm muscles to pull your arm away. Okay, sensory neurons also send messages to your brain, but before this happens, your hand is already off the element. So you may think about this, and you go and you touch a hot surface. Okay, you move your hand before you actually even feel that heat, but after a few seconds, faster than a few seconds, you feel that heat because the message has been sent to your brain. So yeah, you do feel that pain. Senses, I think this is the last slide. Senses, we have sight, we have hearing, we have smell, we have taste, okay? All of these are found in specific places, right? I can see it in my eyes, not out of my ears, right? Your parents say they have eyes in the back of their head. They don't, maybe they do, But no, they don't. We hear out of the ears, we smell out of our nose, we taste out of our mouth. Okay. Touch, however, touch is found throughout our skin. It's the largest sensory organ we have. Okay. I've had students that said they just love having their hair rubbed or those head massages. Okay, that's all from the sensory organs. So just imagine sitting there, massaging your head. I've got one of these things here. Oh, look at this. Oh yeah, that feels great, right? So the sense of touch is found throughout our body, okay, on our skin, sensory organs. I feel that great on the hand. Okay, that is it, boys and girls. We went through it fairly quickly. Put my brain back on. If you have any questions, I know we went through it fast. Don't get too stressed out about this section. Know the neurons, know the structure of the neurons, know the dendrites receive, the axons send, the body contains the nucleus and all that kind of information. Know the different parts of the nervous system, central versus peripheral, et cetera, et cetera. And if you have any questions, give me a shout. Also, I will be posting a Bill Nye video on, I think it's the brain. It might be on the nervous system. But yeah, that video will be on there as well. And then that's it. Our next lesson, it's going to be a long one, but it is going to cover topic 4 in our textbook. I'm combining all of topic 4 into the one lesson. We're going to talk about diseases, how diseases came, and some diseases that affect our systems. And I haven't decided if there's going to be some sort of a research project or whatnot, but that's where we are now. All right, have a good night. I'm going to start recording the other one right away here. Have a great day.